For many people, going to the polls is an in and out process. But town staff, volunteers, police, and many more work year-round to prepare everything to ensure a smooth and democratic election process. Here's a look at what goes on behind the ballots.
We're always working towards whatever next election we have after we end one, and usually with the annual town election, I'm getting ready pretty early for that. Getting ready 6 months before. First of all, I have to do an election calendar. The next piece would be, the nomination papers go out, the nomination papers comes back in, and then what we have to do is certify the signatures. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the names as they're registered to vote of all the candidates, their addresses, and putting a ballot together. And then making sure that everything is correct, their names, their addresses. It's always great because you get to look at it and make sure that there was no typo or any misspellings. You need it to be perfect. The early voting we set up at Carby Street, municipal offices, and that's set up for 10 days. And that is a process. It's just like a polling place. We have 5 or 6 booths set up. We have some checkers. We use our poll pads, and we give them an envelope, a ballot. They have to sign it. They seal it, and then they put it in a machine, a box. It's not cast. And that's part of the election law with early voting. The ballots can't be cast until election day.
Instead, early votes are scanned and stored in Town Hall alongside absentee ballots until election day.
An absentee ballot is for somebody that cannot go to the polls either for religious reasons, medical reasons, or they're not going to be in town on election day. So they actually fill out an application and they're signing under the pains and penalty of perjury that this is why they need to absentee vote. And typically it's a lot of our seniors that can't get out, and we have all the applications on file. So as soon as we get the ballots in, those are the first ones to go out. We keep the application with the envelope, which is sealed. The envelope is never opened. That inner brown envelope is never opened. And then on the day of the election, they're taken out. They're not opened. They're still sealed until they go to the polling place. The day before the election, we set up the polls. What it's doing is it's setting up the booths in each polling place, and we have about a dozen booths that we have set up. We also have, we set up the tables for check-in and check-out. We make sure we have the signage up, and we also have a handicap voting machine that we have to set up. And it's not only for anybody can use it. Visually impaired, hearing impaired, or just the average person that wants to use it can use it.
Town Hall staff prepare everything for the officers, who show up the morning of and transfer the voting materials to their assigned precincts.
Election morning, they come at 5:45 because they have to get all of the equipment to the polling places by at least 6:15. And what they're doing is they're taking the election machines, they take ballots, and they take the poll pads, and also an equipment box which has the voter lists and just the things that they need for the day. They'll bring everything in, and the warden and the clerk will be there. They're the first ones to show up. So the first things that they are going to do is they'll put up some extra signage, but they'll also have to set the voting machine, and they turn it on, and out should pop a 0 tape. So that tells you there's no votes that have been cast. We're starting off fresh. We have a warden, a clerk, and we have 4 inspectors. And what the inspectors do is they man the check-in or check-out tables. have the clerk. The clerk's duties during the day is to record anything that happens, when the polls open, what the weather is that day, if there's any type of issues, if there's an inactive voter. And then we have the warden. The warden is actually, aside from myself being the chief election official, the warden is in charge of his precinct. So anything that happens in his precinct, that's the warden's responsibility. And they, most of the time, if they need some extra support, they'll call me and I'll go over, or if they need a police officer. We've had times where somebody may come too close with a sign and they nicely ask them, to please move. You have to be 150 feet away from the front door. So at 8 o'clock when the polls close, and this is when the work starts. Inspectors are counting their books up. And checkout is also doing the same. And those numbers want to match the tally tape on the voting machine. Once we're closed out, once each precinct is closed out and they have their tally tape, they take out their memory cards. They give those to a police officer who brings them back to town hall so that we can get the results to whoever's waiting. And they're unofficial results because there still may be some hand counts that aren't counted on that first tally. The work, again, it begins for me. I still have a lot of work to do after the polls close and after we get our unofficial results in. During state and federal elections, I also have to call the Associated Press, call them in with numbers.
With another election done, town staff take only a moment's rest before preparing for the next round of candidates, polls, calendars, and voting. Thank you for watching.